Mr. Moderator, shall we begin, or while still waiting for some of the panelists?
Well, that's what I call punctuality. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening or early morning to some of us. I think we may start. Some participants will hopefully still join us as we proceed. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would first like to start with some compliments because we had a very good day yesterday. Very high-level speakers, very well illustrated presentations, very well timekeeping. So the bar is very high for us this morning to continue in the same way and spirit. So on the thematic forum 3B, our theme is the International Green Model City Initiative. And this will focus on inclusive, resilient, and smart cities. I think the program is with all of us, so I don't need to explain much. I would just proceed directly. We have 6, respectively 5 speakers. We have 3 commentators. Our speakers come from 5 different countries on 4 different continents. And we have representatives from different perspectives and areas, such as international institutions, academia, practitioners, private sector. So we will have a very, I think, a very rich introduction to this topic, and we will also hopefully have some time to reflect on some of the current issues. On this brief introductory note, I would like to pass the floor back to Christine for the first presentation. I don't think I need to introduce her. She is the energetic coordinator behind the entire event, and also the specific coordinator for the IGMC, the International Green Model City Initiative. So Christine, please introduce the issue to those who may not have heard it before and update us for those who have been working with it for some time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Once again, I'm very pleased to share some technical work we have been doing for the past decades in Global Forum. So today I'd like to share the International Green Model City Standards. Let me share my screen. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No problem.
Is the video now? Yes, here it is. So actually, I have been talking about this for several times. I hope this very comprehensive introduction can give you an idea of what we have been doing for the past decade. It's called International Grand Model City Standards. Since it was launched 10 years ago, the IGMC initiative has been making significant progress that is underpinned by the IGMC standards. The IGMC has been become more adaptable to the needs of cities, new challenges, while representing a paradigm for future sustainable development. In 2016, the third version of IGMC standards was firstly publicized, and during the Habitat 3. Generally, the standards 3.0 is an assessment planning guidance tool for urban development. It provides technical means and evaluation methods for the specific implementation of the SDGs, the New Urban Agenda, Paris Agreement, and at the local level. So it's an effort of leading sustainability experts at home and abroad. It is compiled and established based on the recommended urban planning and development principles and success stories in cities globally. So moving on to the structure of these standards, the vision of the 3.0 is structured around 6 key principles: safety, sustainability, equity, identity, prosperity, and happiness. These principles are put into action through 18 structural categories spanning across 6 dimensions, including environment, spatial planning, basic services, economy, society, and culture. So these categories are elaborated in depth through their respective definitions, key methodologies, key indicators, rating system, and the best practices. So this table shows clearly that most of the standard strategies have a high or moderate relevance with the SDGs. Especially it is completely consistent with SDG 11, which is make cities and the community safe, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. So one point of difference is that IGMC offers a comprehensive framework for implementation on the ground. So integrating the IGMC standards will greatly contribute to the implementation of SDGs at local level. So basically the rating system provides an integrated index system to support cities improving their sustainability performance. It is designed to reflect a general consensus on urban planning, design, and development policies that fosters green growth and social inclusiveness while cutting down the carbon emissions and ease the burden on our environment. Secondly, it is to motivate the project teams to drive innovation and transformation for sustainable urban development. It is adaptable and applicable. It is context specific and provide easy references. Since early this year, we have been following new guidelines so as to expand the global network of IGMC and make it more feasible and implementable at a local level. So under the new guideline, the participating in this initiative is free of charge. Okay, it is applicable for both cities and communities. Hence, we have 2 types of rating system focused on city and community. Partners can do their self-evaluation and rating for free. The IGMC global network consists of city governments, new zones, industrial parks, and private entities. These are the partners from the public sector, as you can say. For example, Kuala Lumpur and Yangon are the new members. They joined last year. Next, I'd like to go through the index system so that you have a better picture of the standards. Basically, its core requirement is to stick to the sustainable planning principles, which ensure that cities and communities become more inclusive, resilient, sustainable, and prosperous. So simply put, it's for people, planet, and prosperity. So in terms of sustainable urban planning, it requires to adopt an integrated planning. It emphasizes higher population and job density so as to achieve economic agglomeration, reduce energy consumption, and increase resource efficiency. It stresses the importance of livable communities. As you can see, dense and interconnected street networks promote walkability as a key measure to bring people into the public space. So in terms of the environment, the criteria require cities to invest a greater effort in conservation and environment protection. So in this regard, resilience is a key part. It is mandatory for cities to establish an integrated disaster risk reduction and a management system that enables greater understanding of disaster risk, strengthens disaster risk governance, increases investment in disaster reduction, enhances preparedness and effective responses. Also, it encourages low impact development and sustainable water use and management. We have set a specific indicator for water use per person per day. Well, when it comes to people, this is the core, I should say the core element of these standards. The ultimate goal of IGMC is to support the building of people-centered city or community. It requires our cities to reach the basic standard in terms of Gini coefficient, housing affordability index to eradicate extreme poverty and inequality. In the meantime, it promotes empowerment of people through a participatory process. So on top of that, it requires cities to scale up investment in urban innovation and at the same time to encourage a city to have its uniqueness by conserving historical and cultural heritage and assets. Finally, it requires cities to pursue a green economy through reducing energy and water intensity and waste generation as far as possible. In addition, it is mandatory for cities to achieve a 40% CO2 emission reduction compared to the baseline year. So after doing the whole evaluation, the rating system allows cities and communities to gain the IGMC status as follows. So the Global Forum would take charge of the appraisal and authentication. So to support our cities in meeting the specified requirements I mentioned just now, the standards proposes strategies of enhancing urban resilience and sustainability, which also is the focus of to this forum. So to guarantee a sustainable environment, a strict EIA, environment impact assessment, must be done to ensure any urban development will not impact, harass, or destroy the natural environment, especially ecological habitats. Most importantly, adopting nature-based solutions for tackling social environmental challenges such as water and food security, human health, and disaster risk management. So the main approaches are ecological restoration, ecosystem-based adaptation, management, and green infrastructure development. So in regard to resilience, resilience building, cities need to get things right from the very beginning through climate smart and disaster resilient planning and design to leverage technology and standards and success stories or experience to build low carbon, safe, smart, and resilient cities and communities, and to improve the quality of urban infrastructure to better respond to disasters. So finally, to become environmentally and economically sustainable requires to maximize energy efficiency and minimize the carbon emissions. Basically, it's kind of decoupling economies through, for example, the integrated circular metabolism-based energy planning, the intelligent energy management, the cleaner production, and eventually we have to change people's behavior, and that means our cities or communities need to promote a culture of sustainability. So with that, I conclude with 3 keywords: standards, actions, and partnerships. But it will never work unless they are put together and get integrated with one another. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine, for this concise summary. I don't think there are many questions, except that we all realize that this is a lot of work. It's an important toolbox for cities to try and move forward. So I just wanted to mention 2 or 3 suggestions to facilitate and advance the implementation. Maybe you want to think about it. One thing is sort of like, because it's a very comprehensive program, so maybe you also want to allow or encourage cities to make like partial implementation, 1 step at a time, or 1 sector at a time, or 1 suburb at a time, or something like this. So that it is easier to get into the participation. And the other thing is, you already mentioned the importance of partnerships. I think there are some cities that are more advanced than others, so they can share their technical expertise, and so that's already part of this system. But maybe that could also be specifically by giving it a label like IGMC partners or something like this, be advancing and facilitating implementation. Thank you so much. Very good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Since I see Serge, will follow on right away and further deepen and expand the same topic, so we can maybe postpone any questions or discussion until after Serge Salat, the president of Urban Morphology and Complex Systems Institute in Paris, has shared with us his presentation. I think you have many slides. I know you will be focused you will be selective, I'm sure.
I will be.
So Serge, the floor is yours.
You have put the mic, it's working, yes, I'm talking. I'm going to share the screen. Just wait 1 second. I need to put this in. No, sorry, I need to share the screen before. So yes, partager l'écran, desktop 1. Yeah. Now I suppose you see my screen. Okay, can you confirm you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. You just
Okay, great.
go to, yes, there you are.
Okay,
perfect.
I will try to focus on showing inspirational examples of what Christine has been describing so well, and I'm not perfectly unable to be so concise and so so precise. I think it's really a challenge to describe. You have a ship by describing such a comprehensive system in so few words and so few slides. But first, as an introduction, I would like to relate the IGMC Standards 3.0 to the healthy neighborhood and to the COVID fight, because I put this title, A Pathway to COVID-19 Recovery with Healthy Communities and Healthy Neighborhoods. And there is a lot of things in the IGMC 3.0 standards which really relate to a long-term recovery. First is, and I hope I'm not going to spend 12 minutes on this, but I think it's really important to get it. And I'm working with the United Nations at the moment on this topic. First, we have seen an incredible inequality within the same cities between adjacent neighborhoods, meaning that in New York or in London, we have places, neighborhoods where the COVID is hitting people 4 times more and killing people 10 times more than in the neighborhood next door, just 1 kilometer away. And this why? Because not just because people are poor or because people are overcrowded, because basically there is a very strong lack of inclusiveness embedded into spatial inequalities across cities and even across the same cities. And this is very much related to the health and chronic diseases prevalence. The fact that already before the COVID in these neighborhoods, life expectancy was 12 to 20 years lower than in the adjacent neighborhood. And chronic diseases kill 50 million people every year. So, and we know that chronic diseases, COVID kills when it is associated with a chronic disease like diabetes or heart issues as a comorbidity. And this is exactly what has been happening. And why? Because these people cannot exercise in their neighborhood. There are very poor social connections. There is no public space around. There is no connection to fresh food and to healthy food. And a lot of the themes that are in the IGMC 3.0, and I joined the remark of Ralph, I think there is a priority in implementing this type of approach like the IGMC 3.0 is to target these deprived neighborhoods, including in the wealthy cities, to improve the health conditions of their inhabitants and inclusiveness. And this is a big part of because Christine has been really insisting on the environmental resilience and sustainability, but there is also deeply embedded in the standard the idea of social resilience and inclusiveness. And this is something we should build upon and show like a kind of roadmap, which is in the standards to move towards health and healthy places. Doesn't mean neglecting the environmental, but basically what the standards are telling us is that the health for the planet and for the environment and the health for the people are exactly the same pursuit. And if you plan and design a healthy neighborhood for the planet, you also plan and design a healthy neighborhood for the people. And this said with a very long introduction, I will jump into my slides. Okay, Christine has already explained that, so I don't need to re-explain it again. Thanks to Christine. 6 key principles, and this is where we come to equity, safety, prosperity, and safety. Dimensions, categories. Of course, I'm not going to go through all the very comprehensive system. Yeah, and already we are in the health story. Create a health supportive environment, improve air quality, reduce pollution, minimize waste, ensure chemical safety, reduce crimes and violences. So this is really about the physical and social safety of a neighborhood. And we know that the vulnerable neighborhoods to COVID are the neighborhoods which are not ensuring this level of safety for people and this level of physical exercise. Decouple economic growth from resource and environmental impacts. Build socially inclusive, accessible, poor, equitable, and gender sensitive cities. That's That's also something which is related. Yeah, and this slide, which I had prepared before, and I've been showing these slides if we look at the map on the right, which is a map of deprivation on the access to jobs, what I wanted to show before was that in this some neighborhoods in New York City have access to 2.5 million jobs in 45 minutes. So there is and some other neighborhoods have access only to 70,000 jobs. So many, much less job opportunities available. So people are trapped into poverty and into ghettos where they are poor and they have no access to jobs opportunity. But if I take the same type of map of the poverty in New York and the map of the high prevalence of killing by the COVID, I will find the same maps. I didn't put them in here because it's not the COVID presentation. So basically, reduced barriers and individual collective potential is also protecting the health of the community and of the people. Enhance the city identity and uniqueness, make cities attractive and creative, engender a sense of belonging and ownership among inhabitants, generate economic growth, and this is also related to the fact that there is a lack of economic opportunities, a lack of housing, a lack of employment, and a lack of opportunity for all. And once again, within the same cities, not between different cities. It's really, it's much more a local question than a kind of yeah, of course, there are cities which are a complete disasters and that we need to improve the city as a whole. But in many cases, in mega cities around the world, many neighborhoods are complete disasters and they are coexisting with wealthy places. And that's really something we should work on. Inclusiveness is not about being inclusive with people far away in Africa. It's probably, at least in our countries, being inclusive with people living next door. So improve the quality of life, easy and general access to amenities such as social services, education. We have seen also the very big digital divide, young kids losing linkage with education because digitally connecting is not obvious for everybody. Access to health, access to vaccines, access to hospitals, the huge inequality in France in the provision of hospitals, depending on places. So now how to implement, and I will try to go fast, effective urban planning. Actually, what I am describing is planning failures. And basically, I think the IGMC 3.0 is a tool for fixing, repairing planning failures and being highly inspirational and practical for doing that. Livable communities, mixed use, fresh food, dense network of connected streets. We have been talking about that many times and Christine has been recalling it. Identity, this is a project I have done in Hangzhou, which is based on Chinese painting, which is based on the fact of having these lines of roof and the fact of creating a landscape with the mountain and the water and creating a sense of belonging for people. And it's not that far from what I am describing, because when you have this sense of belonging, people are really pushed to walk and exercise and have a social life and socialize and have a lot of things at walking distance. This is a neighborhood I am designing at the moment. Connecting networks of streets, it's just like not creating enclaves, but really connecting people to people with street patterns. Creating green space, networks of green space, so that not just a big park, but network of many small green spaces so that people have access to green space 300 meters from their home. And they can move from one green space to another green space. There are neighborhoods which are wonderfully designed in Scandinavia, where students can go to school not moving through the streets, but moving through the network of green space which connects their home to their school. And it is continuous, like this one in Malmö in Sweden, which is providing a great walking experience for the people. And this is my own design in Hangzhou, which is also looking for providing this great experience and pushing people to walk. Just walking 20 minutes a day already improves health. And but also in these neighborhoods, in these deprived neighborhoods, you don't have public space. So why would people go out to walk? yeah, some other pictures of the streetscape. So I've been applying myself IGMC 3.0 in my design, and at the same time, it's super good for the environment because these roofs are not just a reminiscence of Chinese architecture; they are also solar panels. We have more than 1,000 square meters of solar panels, and this I think 2,000 and something. And this makes the neighborhood fully positive energy. So it produces more energy than it uses. So at the same time, creating the streetscape, creating the reference to the Chinese culture is also a way of embedding sound ecological principles in the design. Densification, yeah, something Christine has been telling the figures about density, and density is not a good, what is density? Basically, I'm producing a piece at the moment for the United Nations. Density is, yeah, 13,000, 15,000 people, 7,000 jobs. But it's also buildings 5 floors high, not higher, and 50% of the land green, at least. And in some cases at block scale, I will show you very quickly an example, you can regreen more than 100%. So density basically is not something with oppressive high-rise tower. It's 4, 5, 6 floor buildings with a lot of green intermingled into it and recreating 50 to 100% green space. Plan and design a great public space, ensure that public parks are within 10 minutes walk to 90% of residents. So that will push people to socialize and go out and have a healthy life. Integrated community block, that's what I wanted to come where you can have a health center here. Maybe I have a section here. This is a food court. This is in Singapore. This is a huge plaza which is covered and shaded by the floors above. And this is a health center here on 2 levels. And this is a place where you can have child care and elder care. And these are apartments. So all these health, food court, socializing, living has been integrated into a block. And this is 110% regreen. You know, the plot compared to the, because it's green, in 3 dimensions. So you have sky gardens. And it creates this, and this is not at ground level, this is at 4th floor level. So you see that the sky garden principle create this community life with gardens and with places for child and with places for elder people. And so you avoid, and something we are really looking at now is that a very big generational divide in France where young people don't care about COVID at all because they're not supposed to get sick if they get COVID. And now we have this thing, oh, COVID is a story about old people. It's not a story, and we don't care. We don't want to hear about old people. That shows really a very big generational divide. And projects like this one, where you have an integration of generations within the same block, avoid this type of generational divide and provide health within the same block, and instead of having, okay, create a blue and green network. This is more environmental, integration of ecology, greening buildings, summary of strategies, views, solar rise, privacy and access. This is something where with good design, you can, really improve the environment. But my key message is that you not only improve the environment, and exactly what Christine was saying, the focus is people. The focus is health, education, social life, socializing, and especially in this time of a crisis, I think an health emergency, IGMC 3.0 is a wonderful tool to provide these healthy neighborhoods and to bring more inclusiveness, more health, and more happiness. And because first, when my friend Lu Haifeng were asking me that, and this wonderful framework came from the work of Christine and Lu, and they were asking me to elaborate on happiness. Well, why they want me to elaborate on happiness? Is happiness an environmental theme? And now I think they were really deeply right. Happiness is really a very environmental theme. And I want to conclude on this. And my book is still available in China beside the IGMC 3.0. And I think my book is a very good way of implementing. And actually it's out of print, but I know there is a pirate version somewhere that people can download in China. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to express this, because it's really difficult times, and IGMC 3.0 was not implemented, was not planned, was not devised for COVID in mind, but it's really a very good response, a long-term response, and the roadmap for action. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Serge, for once again a very comprehensive and very well prepared presentation. I am sure Christine and the GFHS team will upload it to the documentation webpage, because I think in the short time available for presentation, many participants may not have been able to grab the actual details that are included in your various slides. I would also hope that you will offer the GFHS forum participants a discount when they come to order your book. How is that?
No, actually, my book is for free. When I said it's a pirate version, no, it's not. It was not for free. But I think when it came out of print, the Chinese made the kind of pirate version, because my students, they are perfectly able to get the book overnight. So I don't know, I should ask them, or they get my book overnight, but I think it's a PDF, which has been like a legal PDF, but I'm happy anyway, it helps people.
Okay, I think we'll find some way that we also have some form of access. I think there'll be many people who will have interest, perhaps in not all aspects, but some selected aspect. And one aspect that I want to mention, which I think will be more important in the future, is the challenge of the online trade on urban development, especially inner cities, because in the past, I mean, inner city shopping areas offering clothes and other kind of, perfumes and were always attractive areas for shoppers to go around, and high value properties. But now with increasing trend of online trade, there are many changes. First of all, I mean, many businesses have unexpected difficulties, financial difficulties, and the respective also the land and building owners see some downturn in their proceeds. So there will be a lot of adjustments. There are difficulties on the one side, but there are also opportunities on the other, because you also showed like the New York High Line and other projects demonstrating that greening is also possible later. It's sort of like when the structures are always there, a redevelopment is always possible in some fashion. I just want to mention this. We are a little bit behind schedule, but we may be able to come back to some general discussion at a later time. So thank you, Serge. And we want to now move on to the city representatives. There is David, I hope, in spite of the odd hour of the day, in Latin America, David Jacome Polit, who is the Metropolitan Director of Resilience in the General Secretariat of Planning. He is the Chief Resilience Officer in Quito in Ecuador. David, are you there?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Okay, is it late night for you or early morning, or both?
I would say it's a very early morning. It's around a little bit before 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Special thanks go to all of you for staying up this late or getting up this early to be with us and share your experience. I think many of us remember Quito from 2016 from the Habitat Conference. So, and you have a very distinguished program on the resilience. So we look forward to sharing your expertise on this area.
Sure. So should I share my screen now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Please let me know if you can see my presentation.
It's about to come. There it is. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll start. First of all, thank you very much for giving us these minutes to explain what have we been done in Quito and what have we been doing. I would like to talk about how to build resilience in a city with multiple challenges, and now we've just added an additional one with the health emergency. But before that, I would like you guys to take into account a couple of concepts. The first one is about urban systems thinking, which is basically about being able to think on how different systems influence each other. And inside those systems, how different parts of the system are interconnected and have feedbacks and so on. And also about building resilience, which is basically how to make sure that those systems still provide different functions and services despite or in spite of different challenges, meaning providing adaptive capacities. Just to give you a setting of where we are, Quito is a very diverse city. We have a pretty rich human diversity. We have indigenous people, Afro-American people. We have brothers and sisters from Venezuela right now because of immigration and so on, which brings rich culture. We have a lot of biological diversity in the metropolitan district of Quito. And of course, that comes with geographical diversity. But we also have multiple threats, such as seismic threats and possible volcano eruptions and so on. And the vulnerabilities, socioeconomic vulnerabilities in the city is also quite important to take into account. That means that the risk is distributed in an heterogeneous way in and around the city. And so how to go about these problems? So one possible entry is taking into account that we are a pretty young city full of young people. But the problem is that 60% of that people is currently unemployed. And probably this percentage is higher because of the emergency. And there is a 20% gender gap, employment gap in between. So that means less opportunities for everyone and possible creation of more risk scenarios. So one of the approaches that we decided to take as part of the resilience strategy of Quito was to promote the food economy as a foundation for development, making sure that everyone has access to food and later from there to education and to possible job opportunities and so on as part of the resourceful and solid economy in the Pillar D of the strategy. And in order to do that, we decided to understand how is the food system of Quito working. And so we started analyzing the natural capital and how water is produced, for example, in the country, and to understand that we are competing for water when it comes to electric generation and food production and so on. How bad prepared is our human capital to produce better food, for example, or to transform that food. Which also relates to social capital and how far away are the private sector and the public sector from the academia, for example, to innovate in those practices, or how vulnerable the city is when we analyze the produced capital. Because basically all the infrastructure in the city is quite weak when facing different threats, which also brings possible difficulties to produce and distribute food. And the next step was to understand how the food system was working. And now we can say for sure that Quito is a city with a lot of food insecurity because food is not accessible from an economic point of view for everyone. physically the food is also difficult to access. The food chain, as I was mentioning before, is quite weak and vulnerable, but also the donation system of food is also quite weak. We are not using food in an adequate way. There is a lot of obese people and children with undernutrition problems. And the other point that we found out is that even though we have a risk management system, it usually doesn't take into account food. So this is just a small sample of what we found, because this is a pretty large research that we've been carrying on. And just to show you this, a couple of maps out of almost 100 that we've developed. The one on the left shows single mothers and female-headed households plus poverty as compared to, food offer. So now we know not only where is food not accessible from an economic point of view, but also from a physical point of view. And on the map on the right side, we can see the food offer as compared to people with non-communicable diseases like obesity or malnutrition, as I was mentioning before. So this allows us to really understand what is happening on the ground. But not everything is bad news. We have some actions that we've been developing for the past years. For example, the urban agriculture program of the city of Quito, which allows families, low-income families, to produce their own food, which means diversity and inclusion as a way of facing food insecurity and also the coronavirus. They've been quite helpful in that sense. The food bank of the city of Quito, which is connected to one of the universities here, which allows us to do research and development and to try to improve the way we distribute food for the most needed, for example. The neighborhood planning participatory programs, which allows us to have distributed governance, has been also pinpointing our response to the health emergency, because in a setting with high informality, like a city of Quito, like the city of Quito, having the support of neighborhood leaders has been important, so that we knew where to distribute food, where are located specifically the most needed persons in the city. Food retailers that allowed us to create redundancies and modularity. This was quite helpful when we had to close down the public markets in the city of Quito. So we started to rely on food retailers, and that partnership worked quite well. And finally, the Agri-Food Pact of the city of Quito, which allowed us to strengthen the social capital of the city, to understand who is involved in the food system, and to coordinate and articulate in a better way. And also that allowed us to work on different scales. So just to give you some takeaways of our learnings, I would like just to say that a malfunctioning system is less prepared to face disruptive events and less able to recover faster. But on the other hand, the bits and pieces of the system that has been working properly were actually helpful to face the coronavirus emergency, as I was mentioning before. An urban system needs to be managed to make sure it provides access to services and goods to everyone. Otherwise, it is a malfunctioning system. And that shows in the city of Quito, in different parts of the city. And we can build adaptive capacities, or they can be created. And this is especially important in informal settings where there is a lack of information. So the possibility to work with communities and community leaders becomes one of the main strategies to be able to face different threats at the same time, because you can amplify the efforts of local governments and help people during these times. And finally, thank you. This is not a one person effort. There are different organizations and different people also involved in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David, for sharing with us this important aspect of food security in times of crisis and even before crisis or otherwise. I think many of us may remember that in the first days of COVID, we also had the observed panic buying and price increases or shortages of various products in many places, including in our industrialized countries. So this issue is a very important one. I was just wondering if you could specifically highlight from the measures that you thought were the most important ones to increase the food availability in the neighborhoods of Quito. Which regulations or which incentives or measures were the most important ones? Could you, like, I mean, I could think sort of like regulations affecting periodic markets, local markets, so that would encourage people or allow people to sell their agricultural produce, or
I think one of the main measures was local produce, meaning urban agriculture. The other measure was articulating with retailers, small stores in neighborhoods. And that goes, let's say, within the formal parts of the market. When it comes to the informal parts of the market, then you need to change the strategy. And what has happened to Quito, and this needs to be understood also, is that when you are not able to sell in a public market, which is basically an informal setting, then you go out and sell on the streets. And having proper policies to face that reality, that is also important. And probably one of the main points that I'm trying to make here is that it is completely different to work in a formal setting than with an informal setting, and understanding that and having the proper policies in that sense becomes crucial, especially in developing countries.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Very important topic, and I think many people will share their experience with you in this area in the follow-up to our conversations. In view of the time, I'd like to move on and invite Mr. Arno Bronte from Rotterdam. He is the Vice Mayor for Sustainability, Clean Air and Energy Transition in the city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Arno, are you there?
I'm there. Thank you very much for inviting me. I would like to share our approach to create a more sustainable, smart and resilient city in Rotterdam. Rotterdam is the second city in the Netherlands. But the Netherlands is a very small country. We are so very close to
Being the
Amsterdam.
mayor, I thought you would say it's the first city in the Netherlands.
Yeah, we have a healthy competition with Amsterdam, but we both have our strengths, and probably, you know, Rotterdam of our big port. We are the host of the biggest port of Europe. I will try to share my presentation with you. Let's see. Screen. No, I don't think this is right. Can you see my presentation?
Not at the moment.
No. Let's see. Probably right now?
Yeah, it's about to come. Here it is.
Here it is. Good. So this is the city of Rotterdam, and the next picture makes it even more clear what our challenges are. We live in a beautiful city, as you see, but it's also a city which is located in a river delta. So we are vulnerable for climate change. And also, like most parts of the Netherlands, our residential areas are built below sea level. So in Rotterdam, it's around 7 meters below sea level. That's already the case for a very long time, so we don't worry that much about that in the Netherlands. Usually when visitors hear about that, they prefer a top floor of their hotel, but in the Netherlands, we know that our dikes are strong enough to keep the water out. But climate change brings along new challenges. So for some years, we experience more extreme weather conditions, like heavy rainfall, and this is going to become a bigger and bigger problem. But also periods of drought in summer. Here you see a map of our region and our city, and the red spots are the so-called heat islands. These are the parts of the city that are in average about 5 to 7 degrees hotter than the areas outside the city. And especially during heat waves, like last summer, this causes a lot of problems, especially in a country where we are not used to having air conditioning in our houses. So 10 years ago, we started already with a program to make our city more climate resilient. So in the last years, we have created public spaces like this. This is called a water square, where it's in a public space that is used in several ways for sporting activities, for just meeting each other on the street. But it's also in times of heavy rainfall, this is used as a water buffer. Next to that, sorry?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this was the photo I was expecting.
Okay, so there's probably a little delay, so I will keep that in mind for the next pictures. So I move already on to the next picture, which is one of the other parts of the program. 10 years ago, we used to be a city with a lot of steel and concrete, but a lack of green. And so 10 years ago, we started to create more green spots in the city, plant more trees, and also use our roofs to make them greener. This is one of the roofs. It's on the 20th floor in one of the buildings in our city center. And here is a vegetable garden created. So there are more places in the city where we now use our roofs, but also make them greener. So also the roofs are used as a water buffer. So next to this climate adaptation program, we also implemented a very ambitious climate mitigation program, because we think that to become more climate adaptive is a solution, but the best solution is to prevent climate change. And to be honest, we are, as a city, and especially our industrial area, is also contributing to a lot of carbon dioxide production. So this is the moment. It's the assignment of the Rotterdam Climate Agreement, the local Green Deal, which is an agreement between the municipality of Rotterdam and more than 100 organizations and companies in the city, and also a lot of Rotterdam resilience residents were participating in this program. The Rotterdam Climate Agreement has as main goal to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions by 50% in the next 10 years. And we do that by 5 priorities, and our main priorities is to make the industrial area cleaner, to replace the coal power plants by wind turbines, to start an electrification of our industry, and also to create a hydrogen hub in our ports area. The next priority is to heat our buildings in a more sustainable way. In the Netherlands, we now use a lot of natural gas, we now are replacing the natural gas heating by making use of waste heat from the industrial area. Now, a lot of heat is literally wasted. It's wasted to the air or into the North Sea, but now we have created a network of tubes from the industrial area to the city to make efficient use of the heat that is there. Our third priority is to create as much clean energy as possible. Actually, we are on the way of creating a huge solar energy plants in our whole city. More than 40% of our roofs are being turned into solar roofs. The fourth priority is to create a mobility transition. Not only a transition from fossil-fueled cars to electric cars, but also a transition from car use to the use of public transport, and of course in the Netherlands, the use of bikes. To be honest, we are ahead in a lot of ways if you compare Rotterdam to Amsterdam, but they still beat us if it comes to bike use. But our aim is to change that in the next 10 years. So like in a lot of cities in Europe and all over the world, we've also used the COVID crisis to create more space for bikes, to create more bike lanes. Last but not least, we also focus on a transition towards a more circular economy. And one of the priorities there is also to reduce food waste. More than 30% of food is now wasted, and we can gain a lot there. And one of the very interesting initiatives in Rotterdam, that's a small company, or it used to be a small company, it's becoming bigger, that was founded by these 2 students. And they came up with a fantastic idea to use fruit waste to turn it into a leather-like material. And the company is called Fruit Leather, and they use, in this case, mangoes to turn that in in this fruit leather, and the fruit leather is used for as a material for shoes, for bags, and for luxurious books. And I think this kind of companies are the future of our city. So next to this energy transition and the aim to make the city more energy resilient, we also face other challenges. For example, the challenge to make our city more cyber resilient. We become more and more dependent on digital networks, and also in potential we become vulnerable for that. The energy transition brings along challenges also on the social level. Some jobs are lost, and we of course have the goal to make our city also more social resilient. And like all cities over the world, we also face the effects of the COVID crisis. And not only the health effects, but also the economical effects. And all this crisis along we try to face and to combat in a program that is called the Rotterdam Resilience Strategy, and also the investments we make in our Rotterdam Green Deal. For example, investments in making our electricity network more smart. Part of that program is to introduce smart charging. So electric cars will only charge at moments where electricity is not needed in other places in the network. And right now we are also experimenting with a vehicle to grid a construction where even the electric cars can be used as a battery to charge back to the network in cases when more electricity is needed, and for example, our windmills are not generating the electricity due to the weather conditions. So this is the resilience strategy and our local Green Deal. And the investments made by the local Green Deal and our local climate funds also create more jobs, and can also be an alternative for the jobs that are lost, for example, in the coal plants. We think that our strategy also to replace some of the old industries by new industries. This is an example of this is the biggest wind turbine in the world, which is now built in the port of Rotterdam. It's built by General Electric, and they are experimenting with this windmill, which is 270 meters high and generates 12 megawatts, which is the most powerful and wind turbine in the world. And we are hoping that if the experiment succeeded, that this type of wind turbine will be used in the wind plants on the North Sea, because we do need a lot of wind power from the North Sea, but we also hope that we can be the city that builds and maintains the wind turbines on this North Sea, so it also can generate a lot of jobs for our city. And because of course we want to become a more resilient city and to be successful in all the transitions we are facing now. And this can also be an opportunity to come stronger out of the economic crisis that is now caused by COVID. So a lot of challenges, a lot of transitions we are facing and we are implementing right now, with an aim to become a more sustainable city, a more smart city, a more resilient city, first and foremost also a healthy and pretty city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Arno, for these very well illustrated, very nice photos, guiding us through your presentations and giving us very good illustrations of the different aspects of Rotterdam. There's two things that come to my mind. I mean, first of all, I mean, you have so many aspects that you touched upon, so many local experiences. I think maybe Rotterdam can also be an active partner, like a shepherd in the IGMC initiative, by sharing further documentation on your innovative kind of projects. When I looked at Rotterdam before hearing your presentation, I also saw that Rotterdam is taking enormous steps to provide electricity to ships in the harbor, so that the air pollution in the harbor can be reduced. Ships do not need to burn diesel whilst they are waiting to unload or load. I think this is a very important aspect also for many other coastal cities. So there are many things that Rotterdam can share with other cities. So the IGMC network may be one avenue, and maybe once we have overcome the COVID-19, Christine, Rotterdam would also be a candidate for a future host in the GFHS non-virtual forum. As you know,
I think that would be a very good.
The conference usually moves around and likes to go to to places where innovations can be documented and can be shared, and Rotterdam would certainly be a very attractive host city. So thank you.
Thank you. May I respond a little bit? Yeah. Thank you, Ralph. And you brought a very interesting issue. Yeah, I will look forward to working with City of Rotterdam, as Ralph mentioned, at IGMC. It's a global action.
Yeah, good. So thank you, Christine.
Cities
and move on in our program. We have 20 minutes left, and we still have
practices in this regard.
I'd like to invite Dr. Kelly Wang. She's the Deputy General Manager of the Overseas Division of Country Garden Group. To those who may not know, Country Garden Group is one of the very large Chinese and actually global construction companies, diversified in and active in many different areas, not only in China, but also overseas, thanks to Kelly. So we look forward to your presentation. Welcome, Kelly, and good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Robert. And we are all the friends, and it's my pleasure to see you again. But this time we see each other online. It is special. I would like to share with you our experience. Will consist of 6 parts: introduction of developer for the city countryside, and I will give the to the city, as well as sustainability and resilience. And the country garden is founded the first 7. Kindergarten Constitution was honored. It is the builder and of the global green smart city. It is a number 100 and global listed about 100.
Hello, Mr. Moderator. And then Kelly, I think we cannot hear you very well.
1,000 and
You can, I guess you can hear me, but you cannot hear Kelly.
No, I cannot hear Kelly very well. I think that
So
the connection is not stable.
Should we encourage Kelly?
Okay, hold on.
Kelly, can you hear us? Sometimes
Okay, I will try.
No, the issue is about the quality of the transmission. It's not about the speed. Can you try one more time? Or can you make we move on, and can you make a new connection and we speak to you in a couple of minutes?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, good.
No problem.
Yeah, so just a few minutes and then we'll come back to you, and hopefully the link will be better then. So that brings us not yet to the end of the presentations, but I'd like to invite the commentators to share with us their observations. I think each one of them may be able to give us a lot of information because we have very experienced commentators, but I like to request you to keep it very short so that we have enough time for the belated presentation of Kelly. So I invite Mr. Alex Kamprubi, the Vice Chairman of the International Landscape Design Industry Association, who has been working in many areas, including China, to share with us very briefly some important points.
Thank you, Rolf. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Well, thank you to the organizers of GFHS for having me here with you. It's a privilege to share in 3 minutes a thought of mine and the Metropolis Foundation related to this Green Model Initiative for cities that we are hearing from our panelists. And indeed, these rating systems are important and are a way to encourage cities to follow a green future. I mean, cities have been resilient in the past to a crisis as the one we are living now. We are positive that these cities will continue to do so with an increasing influence of a green future. And we also have heard on the voice of several leaders in this conference that cities today are very different than a few decades ago. Today, cities are not municipal boundaries. Today, cities are not even the metropolitan areas. Cities today are functional areas and polycentric structures that allow people to live, to play, learn, and work in a bigger context. I mean, as we know, estimates of Oxford Economic Research find that the global infrastructure investment is going to be 94 trillion USD between 2016 and 2040. And this is in order to make our surrounding environments functional. If those investments are done in a conventional form, we know, and every day we are more aware that this kind of investment will destroy our planet. Therefore, as we agreed yesterday with Marco Lambertini on his speech yesterday, if we invest in an intelligent way, a green economy may rise and regeneration of economies will occur. The challenge of building a city is that everyone has its own idea about it. The concept is changing over time. And now we're getting to express a more sophisticated concept of a green initiative, as we are hearing today. Curitiba was the model in the 1990s. Greener areas, more than 50 square meters of green area per inhabitant. Innovative transportation was the the vanguard at the time. Curitiba shared the world, the BRT. Today, Copenhagen would be considered one of the greener cities because of the technologies, the practicality, or the social policies implemented. I also work as a senior advisor in Metrópoli Foundation in Spain. And there's an idea of cities because not all green cities, as this model that we are being sharing today, need to be integrated. So in the foundation, we called Supercity to this generation of singular, integrated, and connected spaces whose leadership, creativity, and shared vision are generating a special magnetism and developing initiatives and projects of greater impact. The key for us to achieve a super city is a multi-layered connectivity across all aspects of society, urban life, and its ecological infrastructure. This means the more connectivity, the more benefits. So work by local and national governments still needs to be made to integrate green and intelligent initiatives into laws, into policies and regulations in order to have a broader impact. So this initiative that we're talking about today and we're hearing from our panelists is extremely important. Personally, within the foundation that I'm working with, we're trying to apply all these models to Madrid. We call it Madrid Life, the Madrid Super City to 2040. And this rating system will be interesting to be balanced in this project that we're making.
Thank you very much, Alex, for being brief and concise. And I'm sure there is a lot of work for you ahead in terms of further landscape development and redevelopment and improvement in the various cities. So thank you, Alex. And we move on to Ms. Yin Mingju, the Landscape Design Director of SPD Planning Design Corporation, also China.
大家好，非常荣幸可以参与到这次的一个论坛的活动，特别是在这样一个特别特殊的时期。首先呢，要感谢论坛组委会的精心安排，也要感谢各位嘉宾的精彩分享。这次疫情呢，的确也让我们开始重新审视我们城市的这样的一个人居环境。在今天呢，有位嘉宾的一个说的一些现象，其实给了我非常深的一个触动。他有提到说，在纽约，我们不同街区的新冠疫情的感染程度不同，他们呢可能是由于我们的开放空间和体育设施的这样空间的这个不同导致的。这一点呢给了我非常深的一个触动。的确呢，在这次疫情期间，它凸显了我们城市绿色开放空间的价值。我们城市的开放空间呢，它不仅仅是传统的作为我们涵养水源、植被、保护动物迁徙的这样的一个生态场所，也不仅仅呢只是一个美化城市风貌的这样的一个装饰性的空间。在疫情期间呢，它甚至作为我们城市管理组团分隔空间的这样的一个功能，也是作为了一种弹性的、可以被弹性利用的这样的一个应急避难场所。它提供的这一些户外的空间呢，可以作为在当室内空间被限制使用之后呢，人们可以在室外进行这样的一个安全的运动的这样的一个提高人类抵抗力的这样的一个活动场所。同时呢，它具有疗愈的这样的一个植被和空间场所呢，也唤醒了人们内在的这样的一个愉悦以及情绪的这样的一个放松。因此呢，我们觉得在这次疫情期间，其实我们城市中绿色开放空间的价值得到了一个更大层面的一个凸显。因此呢，就像我们作为一名一线的一个设计师呢，我们也会在未来的一个城市设计规划以及景观规划中，更加的将我们城市的这样的一个绿色开放空间的这样的一个布局，进行更深入的这样的一个设计。同时呢，在我们未来城市更新的项目中呢，也会更多的植入这样的一个绿色开放空间，会根据我们 IGMC 的这样的一个理念和标准呢，就建设这样一种包容的、弹性的这样的一个城市。主持人，我这样结束。
Thank you very much. And we listen to the third commentator, Wei Ming Lei, Marketing Director of Guangxi Poly Property Group Company Limited.
非常感谢我们的一个全球人居奖的评委组，然后也是很荣幸能够参加本次的这么一个人居论坛的一个盛典，然后主要分享一下2点主要的一个内容。整个南宁市就是在目前整个定位为整个北部湾的一路一带的一个核心的一个城市，是中国东盟的一个在政策下的一个引导的一个首府城市。我们的一个北部湾经济的一个核心枢纽，所以说未来在整个全球化来讲，它属于说一个面向东盟的一个桥头堡。那我们广西保利置业集团在对于这么一个第一战略位置的一个占有的一个远见，对于每一寸土地的这么一个敬畏，在开发的时候，对于整个自然环境景观，包括我们对于整个空间的一个利用，就达到了一个极致的这么一个产品。我们的一个保利君悦湾，它从空间的一个尺度上来讲，就产品的一个赠送率高达了60%，在整个产品来讲，它属于说在整个全国吧都是绝无仅有的这么一个产品。它在空间的一个利用，将我们的80%的这么一个空间利用率达到了一个极致。在这个本次的这么一个疫情的期间，大家应该也都待在家里，所以说我们在整个产品的研发的时候，对于可持续发展的一个空间，包括它的规划，还有它的一个绿色建筑、智能社区这方面，能够满足我们在家待的每一分钟都没有这么的一个这么的一个无聊。所以说我们秉承了这对土地的一个敬畏，对于我们的整个自然的一个尊崇，还有文化的敬仰。保利置业它是一个整个全球化的这么一个地产开发公司，所以说我们对于整个开发，它是遵循着我们以自然共生的天造一半我造一半这么一个理念进行整个产品的研发，也是给整个社会带来更多的一个能抵抗整个我们的自然环境风险，包括所有的这么一个保值的这么一个产品。好，主持人，我这边的一个发言。非常感谢。
Thank you very much, Mr. Wei. I apologize for all the 3 commentators for a very limited time that we have, but I hope that on future events you'll also have an opportunity to have more elaborated presentations. On this note, I'd like to come back to Kelly, Dr. Kelly Wang. If the line is better now, hopefully. We can hear her presentation.
I can hear you now. It's clear?
Very good.
Okay, I will continue, sorry. Yeah, I will continue my presentation. But we have a project in Malaysia, it's a forest city. The project started in 2014, and it is located in Johor Bahru, Malaysia, and it's developed by Country Garden Persecute, which is a joint venture between Country Garden and the Johor Bahru government-backed Iskandar, Danka, 88, SDN, and BHD. The planning and the urban design, as well as the landscape architecture design, is done by the global design firm Sasaki, and the project is constructed by Leap Construction. And the first city is located in Malaysia Economic Hub. I will show. Okay, I will share the presentation. It is the Iskandar Special Economic Zone. It extends to Singapore and covering Eastern and APEC Economic Circle. And also it is located near the port of PTP as well as the Malaysia-Singapore sector link and the education city in Johor. And nowadays, you know, The trend of urbanization and the increase of the global population will bring various threats, such as the urban pollution and the destruction of nature. And we are motivated to address how the world can continue to modernize without having destructive effects on the planet. But combining green and smart concepts to create a better life and the living environment. So as to improve the community cities' living standards and create a more resilient economic development. With this in mind, the sustainable and resilient planning at First City were key principles. And also, this is some of the pictures to show the progress of construction in First City. I will go through it quickly. And as a sustainable and resilient planning of First City being a key principle with 6 key elements. One is the sustainable economy and the community resilience, sustainable spatial planning, and smart city resilience. Also with the biodiversity and environmental resilience. A city-scale development project would not be sustainable without a sustainable ways of economic growth. But now we have 8 key industries selected: tourism and MICE, regional headquarters, emerging technology, green and smart technology. And also we have the nearshore finance industries, education and training, e-commerce, healthcare, green and smart technology. And also for the city applied the vertical greening concept. This entire complex with the engraved in green and parks with the buildings facades covered by plants, as well as the building with the sky gardens, rooftop gardens. All the green plants will be irrigated by the automatic irrigation system to ensure timely maintenance. And the multi-dimensional and the 3-dimensional vertical green ecology not only makes the full use of the flowing wind, light, and the water resources in nature, but also reduce the energy consumption, purifies the air, conserves rainwater, and reduce noise. Moreover, we use the multi-layered traffic design and the vehicles and the parking space are docked underground. And also in this project, we use IBS, that means the industrialized building system. And to promote sustainable building practice in IBS, introduced this project, and also we already built the IBS plant since 2017. But first, now with the greater part, IBS is proven to be able to lower energy consumption as well as facilitate more optimal materials usage, recycling and noise capture and dust capture. But also we have the smart city resilience, including 6 parks and smart home, and the community service, and also use the technology experience in the more vivid. Also, we use use the urban management and some the industry support. But we also, for the city will invest nearly 1 million Malaysia currency for the CSR projects to empower and support the local community. And also for the city, get the certificate from Malaysia Prime Minister in 2019 for its support of the government's affordable housing agenda plan and other CSR engagement. But you know, this year we get the COVID-19, and we do give the 1 million PPE to support the nation's public health in Malaysia. But for the fourth city has embedded 3 phases. Fourth city ecological development action plan in this project. During the first phases, and the fourth city has taken environmental measures in construction and development. And also we do a lot of comprehensive environmental impact assessment report for large scale and engineering projects. And also for the city invest over more than 20 million Malaysia currency to set up a double layer silt screen during the land reclamation progress, and also to monitor the surrounding environment closely through the regular hydrological monitoring, satellite remote sensing, and other measures. And now to form a special protective task force in 2017 that has effectively stopped 5 illegal logging cases by the end of last year. But also we set up the ecological sewage treatment system and the wetland treatment. But for the phase 2, fourth city eco museum opening last month, and integrated outdoor greenness, ecological corridor, seagrass conservation areas, and exhibition halls and laboratories into one system. And it creates an immersive experience for the visitor with a real thing ecosystem. But also the phase 2 exhibition hall for City Eco Museum will leverage on higher technology VR immersive experience. For the city will build a 4 kilometers eco corridor with multiple interesting hotspots such as the green plant maze and the seagrass conservation area to create immersive eco experience. But in future, we're looking forward for the city will continue to find the fine line between urban development and natural heritage. And we are working towards becoming environmentally friendly and sustainable development by trying to achieve zero sewage discharge and better rainwater management. But at last, we are willing to join hands with the global citizen to build more resilient cities like for the city and share a healthy planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for sharing with us this presentation. It's always good to see how much continued progress there has been during recent years in spite of all the various challenges. I think many people also have noted the special generosity of Country Garden Group to help out within China as well as in Malaysia and other countries to help the public sector deal with this in this crisis situation. So I'm sure they're all very appreciative and thankful to you, to your company.
Thank you.
There's always you have the advantage in building a new city that you can incorporate more easily all the new technologies and all the experiences in the design. Yet you have the added challenge on the other side to also breathe in the life to create the jobs in this current situation. So there's many things that we could talk about, but in spite due to the time restrictions, I think we'll have to postpone it to another occasion a more detailed discussion. I also see that there are some questions and some comments in the chat box. I must apologize that I'm not a good multitasker. So we will take them one by one, or I will forward them to the respective speakers. I would like to close this session now, apologizing for the next group for a little delay, but I would like to thank all the presenters for sticking to the time, sharing with us very informative presentations, which I'm sure will be made available online for subsequent review. I also thank Christine. For us, the job is done now. For you, not yet.
No,
Thank
not
you.
yet. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen because I'm going to share the agenda for the following sessions.
Okay, so I thank all the presenters once more. I will follow up by email and look forward to resume our conversations in more normal circumstances in the hopefully not too distant future. Even some more challenges seem to be ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all in next sessions. Okay, please let me see. Okay.